Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Made in America with PanTech Design. This is the world premiere. We are excited to bring you the brand new episode of the show. And like I said, it's with PanTech Design, and we're thrilled to tell you a little bit more about what they do, how they do it, and dive into a lot of different topics in the world of energy. I'm your host, Tyler Kern, and with us today, we have a cast of characters, the stars of the show, really. We have Alex, Troy, and Sean. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Great to be here.
Absolutely.
Well, Alex, this I think was your film debut, right? If we can call it that. Tell us a little bit more about the process of getting to tell us a little bit more about what you do and doing it on film. What was that like for you?
Well, I really didn't have any idea of what to expect. So I was new to all of it, but it was great. I had a lot of fun, and we even got to play some guitar at the end.
We did get a little jam session in at the IADM facility. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and showed off how little I know about how to play metal guitar. But you know, we made it work. Yeah,
it was still fun.
And Troy, we ended up shooting at your house, which kind of acts as the PanTech laboratory, right? Which was a lot of fun to get a chance to see how this works and how this looks in practice, because you can hear a lot theoretically about how a product works and what this might look like, but then to see it in action was just a totally different thing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And you're absolutely right. It's the elevator pitch is hard with what we do. It's quite complicated and also quite amazing. So it's the seeing is believing type thing. So for you guys to come by and me to be able to just walk you through some of the technology and the lab and where we play and where we live and where we try new things and innovate our product. It's a fun place. We have hundreds of people that come through that home. So it's kind of interesting because it's the lab, but it's still got to work because I live there, right? So we're always playing, and then we back off, and then we load the production software, and that kind of thing. So
we'll have totally to see cool in a moment if it makes it into the final cut. But I think at one point I said your wife is very gracious in allowing all of this to happen, right?
Oh, trust me, man, that woman, she's put up with a lot. But she helps too. She does help.
Yeah, it was incredible to get a chance to be there and to see everything in practice. And Sean, we actually got to see your facility as well, where these products are put together and the behind the scenes look at that. And I think you showed up for work that day not knowing that you were going to be on camera. We just kind of grabbed you and threw you in the chair and put a mic on you and said, Sean, you're going to talk. And you made it happen, man.
Thank you. I was not prepared for that at all. So it was good. It was a good experience.
Well, you did an excellent job for it being something that caught you slightly off guard. And you know what? We had a lot of fun shooting this episode, honestly, and it was a blast. And so we are excited to bring it to the masses now. This is the latest episode of Made in America with PanTech Design. Let's roll it right now. America's energy infrastructure is aging, and that's a problem on many levels, but at its core, it means we're getting further and further away from meeting rising demand. The innovations of the future are exciting, but they need power to match, and without it, we're hamstrung. Companies looking to meet this challenge head-on have increased their focus on energy automation, grid storage, support for renewable energy, and more. And we're about to meet one. On this trip, we're visiting a company that is innovating and disrupting the way we manage our energy consumption and automation, right from our homes, right here, only on Made in America. PanTech Design is the developer of Adapt Energy, an interface to manage energy in your home and give you more control over how it's used and stored. Let's dive in even further to the ailing US grid and how Adapt might be part of the solution with PanTech CEO Troy Morgan. So Troy, tell me about the aging infrastructure here in the United States, especially as it relates to the power grid.
There are areas in our United States that have a power grid that's as old as 100 years. It's something that unfortunately we haven't put enough time and enough effort into, but over time we have gotten to some of those and done some upgrades and done some sort of infrastructure changes. I would say on the average, our grid infrastructure is probably around a 50 to 60 year of age, but there are quite a few, at least on the transmission and distribution side of things, quite a few upgrades being done. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we need we need these electrons to flow a little cleaner and a little faster and a little better, especially when we're sort of dumping a lot more solar onto the grid, and now you've got this back and forth thing that's got to occur. A lot's been done on substation work, transmission distribution to sort of upgrade the grid infrastructure over the past decade or so, and the worst part, we're nowhere near done. Like we've got a long runway of work to do to get our grid infrastructure where it needs to be.
So with that being said, what are the consequences? Where do we feel the effects of that aging infrastructure?
I guess the biggest consequence is in situations like we just experienced here in Texas with that big storm, where we have an aging infrastructure, but also an infrastructure that's maybe not prepared for what can happen, right?
What are the challenges associated with that crossover, I suppose, of new and kind of emerging renewable technology mixed with aging infrastructure?
So the biggest challenge is that the infrastructure is not necessarily as prepared to handle these newer things that can essentially inject electrons into the sort of already aging infrastructure, right? So what we're really asking the infrastructure to do is more than it was designed to do, because and also deal with the power coming back the other way, right?
Is the solution for this aging infrastructure simply just updating it, or are there other solutions, other ways that we can help mitigate some of these factors?
I do think updating is necessary. I mean, we have to do that, but it's also changing the infrastructure in terms of how we're laying things out. I'll give you a perfect case in point. It's really simple, and it has to do with underground lines versus above ground lines. When you have above ground lines, your susceptibility to a grid loss because of high winds and ice become it's almost a guarantee. And then below ground lines, you have none of that to worry about. And so what I see happening is, a change occurring where we're sort of going from that above ground line and we're bringing those underground, and that's actually going to increase our sort of resiliency to grid losses and those types of things during, storms and high winds and the like. Simple things like upgrading capacitors. It's a small thing, but it's absolutely necessary, and it's sort of a big thing when you start looking at it's exacerbated by the challenge of how many of these are out there. The more we require more, I guess, from the grid, the worse off we're going to be.
So you work in the world of automation. How can home automation also play a role in reducing maybe dependence on the grid or lessening some of the impact of this aging infrastructure like we've seen, and maybe bring about a new age of energy in the United States?
I see a new age happening. It's like flipping it. You're going 180 degrees. You see, right now, a home relies on the grid and the utility. If you flip that and you make the grid not the primary, but the home itself and what the home can do by itself the primary, and have the grid as the secondary method of power supply, it changes everything, because we de-stress, we decarbonize, and we sort of digitize things as well for the grid side. And then in the home, you actually have sort of all you need, unless you need a little extra. So solar, a battery, and then demand control within or behind the meter, if you will, in the home, you can start sort of squeezing on it locally. And then you take that to a community, and now you have a community working together. So that's really your second tier, and then your third tier actually for getting power becomes the grid. So picture having a community that is serving itself. My neighbor needs some extra power. I have some. I'm part of the community. Let's help make that happen.
So if we are 10 years, 15 years in the future, and everyone has Adapt Energy in their homes, and we have another storm like what we saw here in Texas a little while back that severely impacts the grid, things like that, how do things look different?
The grid doesn't matter. That's it right there. The grid doesn't matter. In that case that you just described, we wouldn't have the grid, and so we'd have to have the systems that are managing the homes and the community really do a good job to make sure that we collectively have enough power to do the basic things that we need to do, like stay warm.
And then millions of Texans would be much warmer than they were in the middle of February 2021.
Right.
So Sean, kick us off just by telling me a little bit about what you do here at Innovative IDM.
Well, I'm a sales engineer, and I cover 20 to 30 accounts and I work with people doing all different types of things, everything from solar power to alternative energy things, all the way over to people building water filtration systems.
So why do I have a robot like right here over my shoulder? What's the purpose of this?
What we also try and do, besides helping people that are building equipment, is also help people that are manufacturing things, everything from chips to sodas to you name it. And sometimes, like we just saw with COVID, it's not always easy to have people in there, but with robots you can keep things moving.
This is really kind of a laboratory of innovation in a way.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool way to look at it.
So IIDM partnered with PanTech Design, and you've been working together on Adapt Energy. What kinds of innovations and what kinds of developments have been made alongside PanTech just in the time that you've been partnered together? How did you help them improve things?
There's a lot of things. I mean, we've built prototypes that maybe aren't out yet that we're kind of working with, trying to make it more condensed, improve the performance of the components that are in there, and also try and reduce the cost and make it more economical.
So is the ultimate goal lights out automation, robots doing everything throughout the manufacturing process? Is that the ultimate goal here for most people?
I would say it's definitely a goal for a lot of places. It does help reduce the cost of manufacturing. But for those that are a little bit more worried about that, I would say that it's not necessarily always what people think it will be. I mean, similar to the steam engine coming out, people were thinking that surely you're going to take my job, I make horse carts. Obviously those people, people aren't making horse carts, but those same people would have definitely found something different to do.
That's a good point. Like there have been lots of innovations like that, right? Like we came out with washing machines. I don't know that there was the amount of hand-wringing about that coming out, but that's an innovation that took a job away from somebody in a sense. There are still ways to bring in automation into a facility that doesn't lead to nobody having a job, right?
At the end of the day, I don't think there's going to be a point where nobody has any work. It's just going to be maybe what you were doing has changed, and it will most likely be for the better.
Maybe we just set the robots up to do all of our jobs. We all go to the beach, drink pina coladas.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have a robot do your laundry when you get home?
Something like that, yeah.
The story of Adapt Energy is a lengthy one, but a recent event proved its worth. During the heavy winter storm in Texas, Morgan's house, equipped with Adapt Energy, never lost power. And it's just one example of how Adapt Energy, along with other innovations, can drive real progress. And it's all made right here in America.
Alex, tell me the origin story of Adapt Energy. How did things get started? Give me the superhero origin story of this product.
We really started this product. We were contacted by Sonnen, and they asked us to integrate their system to kind of add some smarts to it, to add some real functionality to it. And that's really our background and what we've done well for many years. From a home automation perspective, what we do is we bring a lot of disparate systems in a home or in other applications. We bring all of those together to make them useful and easy to control and functional. The energy space, we looked at what was really possible there. What value could we add to the space to make these battery systems and other different types of systems useful and more functional.
From that initial first product that you have, how have things evolved since then?
Really, the biggest innovations that we have are to make our product more resilient, less dependent on outside third-party input to really deliver on our core functionality. Grid loss is a great example of that.
Right.
We don't rely on any third party to tell us that the grid has gone out. We added components and parts and pieces to make that happen internally.
You mentioned innovative IDM, and we're here in their really nice facility here today, and it's fantastic to look around, but what made them the right partner for this project for you?
Really a couple of reasons. I mean, obviously, you have the core requirements, having the ability to deliver a solid product for us, but being local is great.
We've talked about that local aspect. Obviously, we're here in the North Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area. But even beyond that, just on a grander scale, this is a product that's made in America, that was developed here, that sort of thing. Is that something that you take pride in as a company and really value, especially in terms of quality and things along those lines?
Absolutely. There's definitely a lack of that, and I saw early on when I was looking for partners, there's really not that many partners out there that, one, that are available, but two, that aren't overseas, you know? So I take great pride in that.
Well, thanks for walking us through that origin story and giving us, you know, the process for how Adapt Energy came to be. Let's go take a look at the manufacturing process now and see how this is all put together and how it all works.
Okay, great.
Alex, we're looking at the assembly process, right? So walk me through what happens here.
Really at this station, this is where all of the parts and pieces are put with the panels themselves. So we make sure that the parts are all here and that they're with the units that they need to go with. You know, we add the wires, any of the components that need to go with it, and then they're put on the rails and really assembled.
That makes sense. So let's walk around and see this particular unit, because in this one there are holes cut in it and that sort of thing. Does that happen here at this stage of the process as well?
Exactly, yeah. So the holes are cut into the enclosures. All of the parts are fully mounted, and you know, it has to be fully assembled here before it goes on to the next station. And we have the pictures to reference to make sure that everything's in the right spot.
So all of that assembly happens here, and then wiring happens at another station. Great, let's go check out wiring.
All right, let's do it.
So up next is the wiring station. Give us an idea of what happens here at this station and why it's important to the overall process.
Well, the panels are wired up, so all of the wire is added, you know, from all the parts and pieces for the internal components. The product can only be as good as the wiring and all of the parts and pieces. You know, the wiring is critical to the function of the system. So it may sound simple, but you know, one wrong termination can cause premature failure or instant failure. So it's really important that the design is followed, that the engineering is followed, and that all of the termination, all of the parts and pieces are done properly.
So we're putting a lot of trust and faith in this man right here.
Absolutely.
Final step in the process, quality control. Obviously, last step, but an extremely important step.
Absolutely, yeah. There's several things that happen here at the quality control station. The first thing that really happens is we physically mock everything up the same way that it would be installed in a real system. So these are the same exact wires that an installer would use when they go to site and install one of these. So these are fully tested to make sure that every single port works, everything works as expected, and then we load the software.
Yeah, because this is a hardware and software type situation, right? So you want to make sure it all works together, that everything's talking and communicating with each other.
Absolutely, yeah. At its core, the system functions without any software. So if the software component were to malfunction or to have any issue, the physical components will still work. We have buttons and control points here on the system that allow you to do anything that you need to do if the system should have any type of a malfunction.
So how does a system pass the test? What does it look like when that happens?
So there's a full checklist that we go through. Obviously, every single output has to work. Once the software is loaded, we check all of the sensors. There's sensors in here that have to react. We mock those up and make sure that the system behaves the way it should when there's some type of stimulus. We box it up, get it ready for shipping, and then, yeah, that's all she wrote.
Then it gets a brand new home, and it's gonna be lovely.
Yeah.
While home automation might not be something that is thought of as a critical necessity, it is an investment in technology that pays dividends over time. Let's take a step into the future and visit the only known 100% automated, energy-efficient house in North America. If you guessed that it's CEO Troy Morgan's house, well, you're right. It may be the perfect showroom of PanTech Design's full capabilities, but this isn't a gimmick. I'm going to sit down with Troy to see how this house is the blueprint for the juggernaut home automation can become.
Greetings, Exalted One.
May have bitten off more than I can chew with this.
Hey,
Troy,
Tyler, welcome,
hey, good to see you, man.
Come on in.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is an incredible home, and this house is fully automated.
It is. It is completely automated, from shades to lights to climate to pool to audio, video, you name it. But more importantly, the energy in this home is also automated. And we have control of a load center, basically breakers in the load center, and solar and battery and all of those things sort of wrapped up into one nice little package.
It's obviously incredible to have everything tied together in this way, but more than anything, do you hope that it can be a testament to people to show people what's possible in the future, that all of this can happen, and it's not a futuristic idea, it's something that's available here in the here and now, I guess.
Yeah, it's real, right? It's available. It's hard to explain it, to be honest. I've had lots of conversations with people over dinner or whatever, and just, hey, what do you do? And wow, okay, let me unpack that one for you. But showing people has been probably the most fun, but also the most rewarding, I guess, in the end thing to do, because they actually can experience it. And I'll sit them down and have them watch a movie, and they're getting an experience. They're getting to see the shades change and the lights change, because it's movie time. Mm-hmm. And then I shut power down to the house, and they're like, what was that? Well, we're on battery power right now. And from that, they're going, okay, I'll take one of those. So close ratio is definitely really high.
So you've basically made your family home into the laboratory for everything. Like, you test everything out, you run everything through here. What was the initial reaction when you pitched this to your wife? Like, hey, our house is going to become the guinea pig of sorts.
So look, she knows I'm big into technology. Mm-hmm. Have been for a long, long time. I mean, we do smart home technology, and that's the way it is. It's a very different thing to go to your wife and say, so we have this black battery thing that we need to put in the house, and we also need to completely rewire the electrical, and oh yeah, and then we're going to put solar on the roof. And so, the beauty of my relationship with her is that she has full faith and trust in me, and she knows that I'm going to do something great with it, and she was all about it. What
do you see coming, and how do you hope that this maybe paves the way and becomes not just the first home, but the first of many homes that are similar to what you have here?
Yeah, well, you kind of keyed into it a moment ago with what you called it. I mean, it's the lab, mm-hmm. right? This is where I live. I think, I play, I do all kinds of things with our energy automation system. And it's about trying to adapt mm-hmm. to all kinds of different situations and circumstances. And you can't live through all of them, right? I'm not gonna have a typhoon. I would have been able to say I wouldn't have had a snowstorm like we had, but look, it happened, right?
Sure.
And so what came out of that was a completely different circumstance that we now got to look at and go, you know what? Ideas. And there were ideas that happen, and those ideas turn into innovation, and they get added to the software and the hardware. And so I'm always tinkering and I'm always playing with things, and that's really how this home's been used, not only to show off the technology, but also to try something different and see if it works.
So just to get the full scope of the level of automation, the amount of automation you have in your home, give us a sense of, a list maybe of all the different things that are automated.
Sure, so we have lighting control, mm-hmm. right? That helps us save energy. Shade control helps us keep the ambient temperature down during the summertime. And we have pool control, we have climate control, we have control of the energy at the breaker level. And when you sort of tie all those together in an automation sort of platform, you can be completely hands-off, or you can actually take advantage of whipping out the iPad or the iPhone and doing whatever you want in a manual way, right?
It sounds exceedingly corny, but the thought I keep having here is just that the future that I thought was like very far in the future is actually happening now, and that's particularly fascinating to me, and the thing that keeps blowing me away.
Yeah, it is absolutely possible, and there's even more that we're going to be able to do, right? I mean, you're never going to get it all right out of the gate, but try something different and see what you can do, and that's what PanTech Design did as a team, and we now have an energy automation system that can do amazing things like track the weather and change the power profiles of the home on the fly, just because there's severe thunderstorms. I mean, just the coolest stuff. All hands off, Yeah, we're here.
That's all for this episode of Made in America, but that isn't all for the companies powering the connectivity, energy, and automation solutions we need to meet our future head-on. On future episodes, we'll visit more American companies blazing a trail towards incredible innovations. Right here, only on Made in America.
Ah, hey man, what are you doing this weekend? I don't know. I was probably just gonna lay low. Feeling kind of tired. It was a long week. Okay, fine. I didn't know it meant that much to you. I'll go. It's fine. Don't give me that. You know I can't resist those puppy dog eyes. Fine, we'll go. Blasted droids. All right, what an episode. What a fun time we had shooting it and bringing it to you. So much stuff to discuss here now. I'm going to call it the post-game show. I don't have a better term for it. So sports is kind of my lens through which I see the world. So we're going to call it the post-game show. Guys, we had a lot of fun getting a chance to shoot that episode. And you know, I remember at the time how timely it felt because we had just had that freeze in Texas in February where everyone was all of a sudden talking about energy and everyone thought they became an expert on the grid overnight, right? Like I wrote a couple of articles, now I know everything about the grid. And so it was really exciting getting a chance to talk to you guys about what you do in the wake of that. Troy, especially with you, just getting a sense of where PanTech came from and where you see it going in the future and the impact that it can have on energy consumption in the future, especially here in the United States.
Yeah, you know, if you look at the name itself, the name really does describe us pretty well because pan meaning it comes from a Greek god of everything, all encompassing. And then you have tech, right? So the technical aspects of it, and then design. And so we've spent a long time really putting a lot of thought and effort into designing a lot of things, but most importantly, taking a lot of disparate pieces, right, and putting them together, gluing them together in a nice way, and then providing them to an end user, the homeowner, on an iPad, an iPhone, some type of user interface that they can easily use and comfortably, get information from. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, but we've started to settle ourselves into a focus on the energy industry, and we believe we can really bring a lot to the table there.
Yeah, and Alex, obviously energy in industry is a big topic of conversation these days, and our conversation with you really got down to kind of some of the technical nitty-gritty about how things changed and evolved over time as you guys continued to work on this product. Sometimes it's not always easy kind of getting into the nitty-gritty in a video like that, but you did a good job of synthesizing things and how things changed. Just wondering how challenging that is to be able to try to explain to somebody like me who's definitely not technically savvy how this whole thing works.
Yeah, I think really the approach that I normally take with it is from the end user standpoint. Mm-hmm. You know, it's hard enough to describe what we do to anybody, let alone when my kids ask me, hey, you know, what do you do? But I take the approach from how they would interact with those types of systems. You know, what would be important to them, and they can really relate to that. Mm.
And Sean, getting a chance to play a role in this whole production and to see how a company like this can change the trajectory of energy consumption and what this looks like in the United States. What does that mean for you, and how do you feel about getting a chance to play a role in this?
It's awesome, honestly. I mean, you're learning on the fly with something that's this new, and you're around some really smart, creative people, you know, that come up with these type of solutions.
Yeah, absolutely, and we had a lot of fun getting a chance to shoot this episode for sure, and saw a lot of fun things. In fact, you got to see a little bit of fun at the end of the episode as we played around, and I had a conversation with a droid, and that was a blast. Tell us a little bit about that, because people are going to have questions about why you have a life-size droid in your home, Troy. Give us the background on that. How did that all come about?
Well, it sort of ties into what I just said earlier. You know, we tie a whole bunch of disparate technologies together. That's what we do. And about 2014, we began a journey in development of software to make programming easier for the residential home automation systems. And interestingly enough, it's called Adapt. And that's sort of where Adapt Energy really came from. And I was trying to come up with like, what would be the best way to prove to the industry that we don't care what the device is. It can be some really off-the-wall obscure thing, and our Adapt software can control it. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a huge Star Wars fan. So married those two together quite well and ended up with what my Amazon Alexa only gets to know as the droid. You can't say the other word.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But yeah, that's how that all happened. I built that from the ground up to prove, you know, sort of our software and hardware capabilities. And then when we started down the energy path, became a natural progression to tie the robot into the home. And if we ever lose grid power, he'll scream at you and let you know. And when he gets power back, he gets excited. It's kind of comical, but you know, it's the engineering chops, right, behind the company that really creates something like that.
Absolutely. And now, just kind of getting back on the energy track and talking about that, we're facing another summer where there are more than likely going to be brownouts in California, grid in Texas. There's already been conversation about what's going on here as far as energy consumption goes, and things looking slightly dire in that regard. As we come to this point in America once again, and we've had these conversations before, but what are some things you want people to know about the state of energy in the United States now, maybe a couple months removed from us filming that episode?
You know, Alex, I think you ought to take that one, man. That's your alley.
Yeah, well, I mean, take our area, for example.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of rapid growth, and with that growth comes more demand. And unless you upgrade the supply and the infrastructure to send that supply to the demand, we're going to be in a situation where we're caught with our pants down.
Yeah.
Demand's both ways too, which is a really interesting piece to the puzzle, right? The demand, obviously, meaning we are using more power, but interestingly enough, through a lot of different means, we're actually generating a lot of power too. And so we have to handle the grid, if you will, has to be able to handle not only the supply, right, of what people need, but also handle the injection of power. And that's a whole different dynamic. You know, when you start talking about how electrons flow between the transmission and distribution, you know, of things, it's quite impressive what we've done to get where we are, but it's also very telling when we have the things happen like what we did have happen, that we've got a long way to go.
I think we maybe helped answer a lot of frequently asked questions for people, and I think probably 90% of people or more probably think that if you have solar panels on your house, that you will have power if the grid goes down. And I think that for a lot of people that was probably extremely eye-opening. Unless you work in energy or something like that, you probably weren't aware of that. And so for me, I think it was interesting to be able to educate people on some of these sorts of things. I mean, it was eye-opening just for me from a consumer point of view of, oh, I never knew that. And so I think that there's a lot there in the episode that people are going to walk away with and say, okay, I'm a more informed person now, regardless of if they were an energy expert before or not. And that to me, I think is a really exciting thing about the episode that we created.
Yeah, it's a lot of why we do what we do in terms of what we're doing even right now. You know, it is education that's gonna help us get there. I mean, you know, case in point, Sean at IIDM educating us on all the wonderful things out there that we can use to make our product better.
Yeah.
You know, we ourselves, we have to educate through a lot of different areas in order to bring products that are viable, useful, and whatnot to the end user. But the end user's got to have a method of educating themselves, not in an overly technical way either. Something that's understandable, agreeable to their lifestyle, and makes sense for them, I think is what's going to help us all sort of get where we want to go from sort of removing the tech from the tech a little bit. You know?
Yeah. Now, Sean, like this show is called Made in America, and part of this, it was visiting your facility and learning a little bit more about IIDM and how you do help Made in America companies, refine the product and refine the production of it, right? And so that's a big value for you. You explained it on the episode a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about your mission at IIDM and what you guys do on a regular basis, so people have an idea of how you help enable companies like PanTech Design to really create incredible products.
Well, it's a really cool job. You work there and you are getting trained in a lot of different new technologies. And then you get to go out and you share that with your customers. A lot of times it's not just about the products that you are selling, but it's sometimes about what you learn from one place that transfers over to another place. And it can be completely unrelated industries altogether, but the technology transfers over.
That's a really excellent point. And from your guys' perspective, what has that partnership with IIDM meant? Maybe for you, Alex, how has that maybe manifested itself in fruitful ways when it comes to what you're doing at PanTech?
Well, I mean, for the next round of development, we're always bouncing ideas back and forth, and it's great to hear what another industry may be doing because that spawns ideas. I mean, there's a lot of great innovation that we can utilize. There's no need in reinventing the wheel if there's already something that fits the bill.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great point. And collaborating with smart people is always a good thing, right? And I think we told the story on the episode of you guys one day just opened the panel, opened the box, stood around and just kind of said, okay, well, what if we did this? And what if we changed that? What if we put that there and then this there and that sort of thing? And it's that kind of collaboration that I think enables great innovation to happen, right?
That was beautiful. That was a beautiful day, man. That really was. Because it was, we weren't there necessarily to do exactly that. We were not there. We were there to talk. We were there to engage, hear about new technologies and whatnot. And that working live hands-on session spawned a beautiful innovation in our product. It was awesome. Yeah, so cool.
Yeah. That was an incredible story to hear, and I think just a powerful testament to what it means to collaborate and to work together, and for everyone to kind of maybe set ego aside and just say it doesn't matter whose idea it is. Let's just come together and throw ideas out there and see what we can make work and see how we can improve things. And I think that's an amazing testament to what you guys do. As we start to wrap up our conversation, let's talk about maybe what your favorite part of filming was, or your favorite part of the episode when it came to your involvement. So Alex, let's start with you. What was your favorite part about the filming process and favorite thing that you did on screen?
I would say my favorite part was probably being able to walk slowly. That's really not in my DNA, so I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah, we made you do the slow walk
the
and
slow
talk.
walk, yeah.
It's really a stroll. It's a leisurely stroll kind of around the facility you got to do. Yeah,
that's an art, to be honest. I watched it. So after the thing, Alex, I wasn't there for Alex's part of the filming because I was getting prepared at my place, and so I talked to him after it was all over, and I'm like, so how did it go, man? He's like, man, it was kind of tough. I'm like, tell me more, like why? And he's like, I had to walk so slow.
Yeah.
And I had a visual of what that might have looked like, but I didn't really get it until I saw the first take, and I'm like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could do that. We're not slow people when it comes to walking or driving or anything. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It was impressive.
It's one of those things where after a couple of times of reaching, because you have a point where you're starting, like a marker where you're starting, and then a place where when the conversation is over, you're supposed to be there around that time as you're wrapping up. And so it was one of the things where, the first few times that I did it, just as someone hosting episodes of Made in America, I was reaching that endpoint way too quickly, and then we'd stand there and have an awkward 10-minute conversation, like not moving at all. And I was like, well, okay, I got to get better at this. And so, it's
timing the words
Yeah.
and the motion.
Yeah.
That's, like I said, it's an art.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would be that good at it, to be honest. He was good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I would have been terrible.
You rolled with it nicely. Yeah.
It
Well,
was
well
good.
done. Well done. But yeah, it is an art form and something that you learn over time. We're pulling back the curtain here on the
A little bit.
on the episode process, but it's good stuff. Troy, what about you?
Favorite thing was getting to have you guys over to the house and actually doing a real grid loss. Like shutting power down and letting you guys experience what happens there. Because again, it comes down to education. The more people that know about it, share their stories, that kind of stuff. And I think that was definitely my fave.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think all my coworkers had a good time. I don't think they were prepared for that either. But my favorite part was definitely the transition to wiring. That was quite difficult to do. It took I think about 10 takes or whatever it was, but I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I kept messing something up. I can't remember what I kept messing up, but eventually I got really frustrated with myself on that. Yeah, and we did transition to wiring like 10 or 15 times. I think I was being too wordy. Imagine that. Like, I'm a professional talker after all, and I kept saying too many words, and I got in trouble. So, yeah, we had to film that. Yeah, we had to film that a bunch of times. But again, just pulling back the curtain. But it was an awesome time, an awesome episode, getting to learn more about PanTech and the incredible things that you do and the role that IIDM plays in it as well. And so, guys, can't thank you enough for having us out to the facility, having us out to your home, sharing the innovations with us and the way that you've done this. It's been an absolute blast getting a chance to see the inner workings and to learn more about what you're doing. So, thank you very much, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And everyone, thank you for joining us for this episode of Made in America, the world premiere. We appreciate you joining us for the post-game show here as we broke down just a little bit of the behind the scenes of shooting the episode, the fun we had, some of the challenges I had as we shot it, and much, much more. Stay tuned for more episodes of Made in America. In fact, just go to MarketScale.com and check out our shows page, and you can find a ton of various shows and a lot of B2B content there, regardless of what your interest or industry is. And so go check it out today. We have a lot of stuff there for you to enjoy. But for my expert panel here joining me today, I've been your host, Tyler Kern. Thanks so much for watching.